All right. I guess you want to take it away with the...
Yeah, you
what
saw
you're up
Stephen Colbert. Is he like touring, or was it just?
He
is
did
that what they do,
a
the late show?
week of live shows in Chicago for the DNC. So they would film the show live, which typically in New York they film it during the day, so it's not a live show. But here in Chicago it was, because it was right after the broadcast of the DNC, which means as audience members you had to wait for the DNC to be over and wait for all those politicians to get their speeches done, and then the live show started. So thankfully they had peanut M&Ms and Diet Coke, which I haven't had that as a pairing in a long time, but it got the job done.
Is that a good pairing?
It was. Don't sleep on that. I'm not a big candy guy, but or like soda or pop guy, but it really helped me get through and enjoy the show. But it was way past my bedtime, but totally worth it.
Peanut M&Ms are a solid choice. I mean,
They
even
are.
if you're not a candy guy, you can be like, well, it's,
Get
it's
a little protein,
it's got peanuts in it.
you get that sugar rush. It's great.
Exactly. Yeah.
Doesn't melt.
Was there any guest at Stephen Colbert, like, or was it just like kind of him doing like monologue stuff?
He was a normal show. They had, our guest was AOC, and then an artist, Jeff Tweedy, who's one of my favorite. He's the lead singer of Wilco.
Yeah, Wilco.
Yeah.
And he was there, which was great. Singing with me.
He's like a Chicago guy, or at
Yeah,
least I
he's
know
Chicago.
that one album has like the
towers. The corncob towers. And he sang with another local Chicago legend, Mavis Staples, who's an old soul gospel singer.
Yeah.
So it was cool.
That's cool.
And
That's
Stephen
really
Colbert used to do improv here. So he gave like the speech at the end, and he got emotional, which was cool. He's like, we had our first kid here. You know, I formed a lot of my skill sets here. So he was really excited and just like humbled to be there. So it was fun to see live and experience that.
That's cool.
Yeah, I would love to catch like a show. I don't even care like what it would be, because I know all that stuff is like usually free. Like you just have to kind of wait in line to get to the tickets. Yeah.
And I always was like, okay, I'm gonna have to make a New York trip specifically, or an LA trip, and make that the part of the day, because it's a full day. So when I found out that he was coming here, I was like, it's never going to be easier than now to go see him.
Yeah.
And I'm glad I did it, even though I got home very late and went past my bedtime. It was totally worth it.
Right. Yeah, catching like an SNL would be cool. Catching like, I would love to catch Jeopardy. That's like, we've been watching so much Jeopardy.
That would be awesome.
Oh, I don't know if you guys heard the news about Jeopardy, but I was heartbroken the last few weeks, because Pluto TV, which is like the free like app that I've been using to watch stuff, they did not renew Jeopardy.
Oh, that's tragic.
Apparently they didn't renew Jeopardy or Wheel of Fortune. So like both of those shows and their massive libraries are gone off of like Pluto TV. Like we opened up the app and I'm like, where's my continue watching? Where did it go? Because it's like, and they didn't have any of the newer stuff. Like I think the most recent they had is like maybe like the year before Alex Trebek died, but that was kind of like our routine was like make dinner, watch a Jeopardy rerun. But on this show we tend to kind of raise our fists in the sky towards streaming services and like the fact that everything can just shuffle around at a moment's notice. But like apparently, and it's funny, is like the Jeopardy YouTube account like posted a video that was like, we hear you, like, you know, incoming message soon. So hopefully if like they did a standalone Jeopardy streaming app that like you paid like $5 a month for, I would buy that.
It would do better than like Paramount Plus, I'm sure. Like it's like it's like,
it's so simple, no frills, just all the old Jeopardy episodes. There
it
you
would
go.
be great. It would be great. Are they still rotating the hosts? Is that what they're kind of going to do?
I think it's
on?
just Ken now.
Okay.
Yeah, they settled on Ken.
I think that's a fair
season
transition.
Yeah. He was kind of like the first like Jeopardy superstar, or like celebrity, so it's kind of like perfect. It was an inside job. Just playing out.
Yeah, he was a sleeper agent. That's like that was his intention with his first run. Because it's like, you know, Alex Trebek is one of those guys that's like, who do you replace him with? He's so iconic. Same with, I mean, I guess to a lesser extent, I'm not a Wheel of Fortune head, but like Pat Sajak also just retired from that show.
Yeah. Seacrest is taking over, which is, I think it makes sense. You're bringing a big name in, but we'll see.
Oh,
Yeah.
that makes sense to me because they both have the same kind of like weird doll man face.
They do. Yeah. Like their face never changes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like the idea of both Ken Jennings and Ryan Seacrest slowly aging into like the people that they're replacing.
Just morph it.
Like,
it's like body morphine.
Like 10 years from now, Ken Jennings is gonna have like a mustache and kind of like some like his like curly hair or like his coat. Yeah, you know.
Yeah. I was respect that like Alec used to have that like back in like the 70s, 80s because he'd been fucking doing game shows since back then. And then for a long stint, he was more kind of like polished, no facial hair, nothing. And then like the last few years of his life, he's like, I'm bringing it back, baby. And he still rocked it like harder than most dudes rock mustaches nowadays. So.
Yeah, every once in a while, like old clips of Trebek will go around on Twitter, and it's like I always make a habit to watch every single one because he was so funny. He could be so funny and also like ruthless.
Yes.
Like if someone had like a stupid anecdote for like the second half of the show, he would go in. He would say like some of the most like ruthless shit to him. It's great.
I still think that's one of the best jobs in entertainment, working on a show like Jeopardy or Wheel of Fortune. I know it's probably monotonous, but I think it's you if you do it long enough, you make a lot of money and you're eternally loved by a huge audience.
Yeah. Like being a question writer would be so cool.
That would be
like
cool.
Coming up with like, you know, like because like when we did Oscars Jeopardy, we did. So TJ and I and a few of our friends, we got together to watch the Oscars earlier in like what, April, May, March, whenever that was.
Whenever, yeah.
And
April.
And I put together like a Jeopardy and a double Jeopardy round of like Oscars trivia. And basically it was like it's tough. It's tough to find, but like writing the questions and coming up with like subtle ways to give the clues in the message of like the question. I was like, this is kind of fun. I can't imagine doing it on a weekly basis or however
basically
often they
daily.
Have to like just like the writer's room on that has got to be like crazy, but it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, it was fun. Yeah, you did a really good job with that. I thought it felt very true to Jeopardy, true to form.
What is?
Oh,
what is?
What is?
There will be duds.
There will be duds.
Whoa, we did it.
What is a podcast? Speaking of, I don't know. Welcome back to another episode of There Will Be Duds, ladies and gents. This is episode 158, and I am your co-host TJ, and with me, as always,
I am Nick, and joining us today is two-time returning guest, host of the Least Important Things podcast. I think that's right.
That is
you just did a
right.
series on. You just did like a series on the Pirates of the Caribbean, I think.
Yep.
Big.
We just finished that up.
Favorite here at Duds Industries. Luke Ferris, welcome back to the show,
gentlemen. So glad to be back to go through another Crichton piece of crap. Crichton crap. The Crichton crap. You know,
maybe I don't know. I don't know.
Okay.
Yes, you guys.
We'll see.
I still have to thank you for watching and talking about Timeline. If you didn't listen to the episode, go back and listen to that episode because one of my goals of the year was to talk about Timeline, this movie from 2003, with somebody. I needed somebody to go deep into this movie.
We were the hapless bystanders.
I felt like I dragged you down into this weird world of this movie that is gone and forgotten in time.
You want to talk about Timeline over here?
And I can't thank you enough. So I'm honored to be back to talk about another Crichton flick. It's going to be fun.
Well, not happy to oblige that, but happy to have you back. And Luke brought in another movie for us to go into. It is also based on a Crichton story. That movie this week is The 13th Warrior from 1999, directed by John McTiernan. It follows Ahmad ibn Fadlan ibn al-Abbas al-Baghdadi, an expat from Baghdad, who is sent as an ambassador, sort of as a punishment, and it kind of gets entrenched with a group of Vikings as and is enlisted in their band of 13 warriors as the 13th warrior to fend off a force of, it's like unspeakable horrors, something, to like protect their villages and stuff from these raving bands of, it's basically Seven Samurai. So, it's not really, it's just
it's not, but it is.
And somehow this is from the director of Die Hard, and somehow from, well, that's less surprising, from the I was going to say from the writer of Jurassic Park, but he's also the writer of Sphere, Congo, Timeline. So I do have a soft spot for Crichton's books, even though they're not all like top tier. And yeah, playing this historical, surprisingly an actual person. I wasn't expecting that he's this Ahmad Ibn, what is it? Fadlan is his short name, was a real historical person who he got involved with like Vikings or whatever and wrote about them. Played by,
just call him Arab like they do in the movie.
Yeah.
That's great. That's aged well.
Played by,
I was like, oh.
Played by famous Middle Eastern Antonio Banderas. So, all right. So, other than continuing the theme of the Crichton catalog, what made you decide on 13th Warrior this time, Luke?
I had never seen it, and if you listen to our timeline episode, I love 90s action or adventure or movies. I'm fascinated with them. This film I'd never seen before, and I was surprised because this wasn't the movie like we talked about. This wasn't a movie that was on TBS Superstation or TNT on a Sunday afternoon, which is a lot of my film genre like intake was that kind of movie. I'd never seen this, and I'd only remembered like the cover specifically at the video store, and I just felt intrigued. It was one that I needed to check off my 90s action adventure list, and so that's what intrigued me. And I love it, Antonio Banderas. I think he's fantastic, especially this era. I mean, this guy he's gorgeous. I mean, we'll get into it, but we needed more shots of him in the rain. Get him in the rain. I want a movie of just him in this era, just in the rain the entire time. Like that. That's my one critique at the start. Like, more Banderas in the rain. We got to get this guy wet. He looks good.
Yeah, this is like, I never saw Zorro, but I remember that being like a big,
I love
sort of cultural.
Yeah, that was my first PG-13 movie, so I really connect with him from this era. He's an icon. And then, of course, Spy Kids following up.
Spy Kids was a big one, yes. Speaking of not PG-13, this movie is not PG-13, which I thought it was going into it, and then there was some pretty brutal stuff that happened.
Yeah, it was. I was surprised too. It felt like it was supposed to be PG-13, and I was like, oh no, it's not.
I thought so too. Yeah. Because there was a lot of the action that felt muted, but then somebody would like get their head cut off or something like that.
Yeah, like I think that the earliest one is, I don't even think they're fighting off like I kept thinking
Vendels, because it was like Wendy's. I thought that was funny.
Yeah, Wendy's.
I was like Wendigos. Oh, is that what they're going for here?
Yeah, right. Yeah,
but I think it's before they even go there. There's like a sword fight that happens, and he like slashes, and like the dude's chest like rips open. And I was like,
good. It was. I liked it. I was like, oh, that's nice. I wasn't. Again, it feels like it's going to be a PG-13 run of the mill action adventure movie, but it's not.
Yeah,
it kind of hit me like Spirited. No, not Spirited Away. Princess Mononoke.
Okay.
Like the sudden bursts of violence there, where like he'll shoot a guy's head off with his bow and arrow, and it just like shows it.
Mm-hmm. One of the first things I thought of, this being in 1999, and like it eases off a little bit as the movie goes on, but him being like a devout like Muslim and like praying to Allah and all that, I was like, it's a good thing that this didn't get delayed by like a couple years, because I feel like it was already delayed. I think. Released.
Yeah, it was. It could have easily gotten totally scrapped.
Yeah, not that it did well, anyways, but I feel like it would have probably just been taken off of the release calendar at all.
It was interesting to watch a movie like that where your hero character is Muslim character. He's from Baghdad, and he's our first person view. He's speaking English, but we're kind of like, okay, he's speaking Arabic, but we hear it as an audience as English. It was really interesting to have that be the hero character. I thought that was one of the things that was unique and good about this movie. It was like, oh, this is a unique perspective. It's not just I thought this movie it could have been told from Beowulf's point of view easily.
Right.
It was interesting to have it, and I know that's what the book is about, where you have this more intellectual, modern, sophisticated person going into a very unsophisticated land. So it's a nice twist because it's more historically accurate, where the Arab world was the center of knowledge and power, and like they were the Western world of that era for so long, and going up north into these area with these Celts and this culture would be shocking.
Yeah, to the point where, like, again, in America, looking at this in the context of like American culture, even near the end where he like takes his shoes off and he prays, it's like, I was like surprised to see that in a movie, like done in that way. Like,
an American blockbuster movie to have that. It's pretty unique.
Speaking of the language, one of the things I did like, or I thought was interesting, because that's always like a critique of these types of movies where it's like, oh cool, none of these characters are English or American, none of them would have like any reason to be speaking English, and yet they all are, right? So you're like, okay, cool, this is like an Americanized movie, meant for, I don't hate subtitles. If they had kept it in the original language, like that wouldn't have bothered me any. But the scene where he's like kind of sitting around the campfire and listening to them speak, and it's like kind of showing him reading their lips and like basically kind of doing like the Sherlock thing where he's like,
figuring it all out.
Like the way that it segued from like, what were they speaking? Like Celtic?
I don't know Greek, but I don't know why.
It did say Greek on like I rented this on YouTube and it said speaking Greek. And I'm
okay,
like,
mine did not say that on my subtitles, so I must have.
Okay.
I was confused for a second because I was like, these guys seem like super Nordic.
They're
why would
definitely
it say Greek?
Nordic. Yeah, like their names are Nordic. They've got all the Viking cultures and customs and stuff. So I
don't know why it said that. But I did think it was cool. I did like it that they like it kind of started out in their language and then shifted into English as he understood it, and then eventually it all just shifted into English, and it's like, oh, okay, I understand now that it's like it's not meant to be clever. Like they are English speakers. It's like he's translate. I was like, he downloaded their language like it was nothing.
It was very quick.
Snake up to steal teeth of 12 horses. Så kommer det bästa. Så kommer det bästa. Når han ville gå, ropte han to them.
It's interesting because the director McTiernan did the same thing in The Hunt for Red October. If you remember that film, it's different. Yes. It's handled differently, but because Sean Connery is
really cool, like
the commander of this Russian submarine, and the first time you see them, they're speaking Russian, all the characters, and then I don't remember exactly how it goes, but they slowly transition from it shifts from English.
There's some word. Yeah, there's some word that like the commander says that is the same in Russian and English. It's the same exact
nautical
word.
term. Yeah.
Yeah. And he says that, and I think it might like zoom in on his mouth when he says that, and then it pulls back out, and then they're speaking English. It's so clever.
I really like that. It's one of the best transitions. But I enjoyed this. I thought it was pretty quick that he learned the language, but I think it was another clever thing to do. Yeah. That most movies are too lazy, like American action movies or adventure movies, especially this era, are way too lazy to do.
It wouldn't really even be like a thought. They would just be like, yeah, they're speaking English. Who cares?
Right. Yeah. They do the exact same thing in Avatar 2, by the way. So I wonder, there's part of me, I'm like, did James Cameron take a page out of the 13th Warriors book?
I'm sure he did. He's like, that's the movie I want to make.
Yeah.
13th Warrior, that's the pinnacle.
They're all kind of movies about like a singular outsider coming in to like save the day.
Yeah, true.
13th Warrior did it first. That's all I'm saying.
13th Warrior walked so the Last Samurai could fly.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's my comfort movie. I may have said that before on the pod, but The Last Samurai, like that 2004 Tom Cruise.
So good.
Ooh, I love that shit. Haven't seen it since then.
Yeah,
I'm a little afraid to watch it again.
I am too. My wife, we saw a trailer for it, and my wife was like, "I've never seen that," and I was like, "I feel like it might be weird if we rewatch it," but I was like, "I'll do it if you do it."
Yeah.
I think that's kind of where I'm at too, because it could go one way or the other, but I also remember liking that one a lot. Another thought I had is like with all these, for instance, Timeline from last time, or Congo, which I mentioned before, Sphere, which I haven't seen, but I think it's in this same kind of wheelhouse. Mm-hmm. I know there's more that I'm forgetting. I know I can look them up. But it's like Michael Crichton is always involved with these, and I wonder. I'm like, does he? He's like the anti-Alan Moore, where like all these dog shit like movies are made of his books, and he's still. It's either like I just want to know: is he like every time another one of these comes out, he's like, yeah, this is great. I fucking love this. We nailed it. Or is it just like he puts all his faith in them and he's like, come on, I got John McTiernan this time. He's been knocking it out of the park in the 90s. He's got to pull
the
through.
Die Hard guy.
Yeah. And then like he just gets disappointed every time they come out. And he's like, God damn it, not again.
Well, in this one he did take over and did reshoots. So
did he really?
Yes, So that's the lore around this movie is that when they did previews, it was so poorly received that Crichton came in and directed reshoots. Now no one really knows if it was a couple scenes. McTiernan says, "Hey, this is technically my movie," which is. I mean, he's not saying it's the best movie ever. So I think if you say that, you're owning it. He said He only did a couple scene reshoots. It wasn't crazy. And he has some pretty harsh words about Crichton. He said basically, this is from an article that I read. He's like, I know he's passed away, so I don't want to like shame his name, but basically. Oh,
so this is more recent. Okay.
Yeah. So this was, I think, a interview in the last couple of years. And he said, basically, Crichton was a great writer, just not a great director, and he always Crichton always had this kind of angst because he wanted to be a director and wanted to be a really good director and never really could be. So sounds like there was some tension, and I think that's why this movie has a little bit of disjointed storytelling and some interesting choices.
Yeah, sure. I think on the IMDb trivia, it said that like the final battle, I don't think it was even supposed to happen in the original cut.
I don't seem like it. I was like, oh, now they
it's done.
They killed her. Oh wait, no, they have to kill the rest of them.
Oh yeah, they killed the witch or whatever, the witch mother.
Yeah, Wendell. And it's like, oh, the movie's over. Oh no, it's not. Well, then why did they kill the witch? And the reasoning for like killing her is like, well. I guess it didn't work.
There's a guy too.
There's a guy.
There's
you
a bigger,
the
chief too. Yeah. I don't know, because like obviously I think a more like modern analog to that would be like Stephen King and like his vision of his novels translated to movies versus like other people's vision, and like I could see Stephen King also being like someone who wishes that he was like a better director, but then it's like you look at Stanley Kubrick's The Shining versus like the Shining miniseries that Stephen King had a big hand in, and it's like not great, like the made for TV one. I think I found that one for free on YouTube years ago when I started watching it, and I was like, oh, this guy is not Jack Nicholson. Like he's not at all.
I think that's Steven Weber in that one from Wings.
It is.
Yeah.
You're right. That is him. Yep.
Yeah. I mean, I'll give Crichton this, like, Westworld is by no means like a home run, but it's better than this, and that's one that he directed like all on his own. So, It's considerably a better movie than this, I think.
Like the original Westworld from like the
that's a Michael Crichton. Yeah, with Yul Brynner.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. It is interesting because Crichton is pretty rare. I guess Stephen King is probably where the closest, where you have maybe J.K. Rowling, where you have a author who's getting like these, essentially it seems like blank checks to do these projects, and they're so involved. It seems like there's not a lot of rules with how much they're involved with productions.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just interesting, like he made a lot of movies, and it's like, yeah, some of them were really big and made a lot of money, but a lot of them didn't. And it's just an interesting era.
I know, yeah.
Like, are we gonna have somebody like that again? I'm trying to think. I know we have like the big YA stuff that's happened in the past 20 years, but
yeah, I don't know.
Like a one-off non-franchise author. Obviously, that he did sequels to Jurassic Park, but
sure,
it seems like that's a lost thing. Like, I don't know if that's going to come back, where you have someone that writes individual novels that get greenlit immediately, and they're involved that deeply into the process of production.
Yeah,
Tom Clancy?
I think Tom Clancy.
He's also like from that generation, though, too.
That's the same generation.
It's not like
a new person.
Right.
I was thinking Cormac McCarthy, but I think what was it? All the Pretty Horses. I think I know. But I think he wrote No Country for Old Men like as an option for a script.
Yeah.
Which, like, if you read that book, the movie and the book read almost exactly, like, very similar. And I know The Road got adapted. The same guy that did The Road is adapting Blood Meridian, apparently. We'll see if that ever happens. But I know All the Pretty Horses was, like, the movie that shot Cormac McCarthy basically out of poverty. Like, up until then, like, he was basically just skating by on his books. And, like, there were some really great stories that came out when he died that was, like, he was offered, like, speaking gigs at universities to talk about his books, and he would turn him down, and his wife would be like, why did you turn that down? We could use the money. And he's like, everything I have to say is written in the book. So it's like,
I wish I was that dedicated to craft.
Yeah. I don't know. I love that shit. But, like, I don't know. I think he was involved with the No Country for Old Men process of making that film.
Yeah.
But in terms of just, like, authors who kind of, like, their stories tend to get greenlit pretty quick. He's only got a few, though. Who were you thinking of, TJ?
Well, it's a quick anecdote. I'll believe the Blood Meridian film adaptation when I see the Akira live action adaptation, because it's another one that's been in development hell for basically since that came out. Not that I really want to see either of them, because I don't think they're gonna be like they're gonna match. But, no. So this is slightly different, but I think it applies still. But it's a comic book author writer, Mark Miller, who did Kick-Ass. But he's also had other stuff like Kingsman is one of his.
That's right.
And then he wrote comics that were kind of the basis for the Avengers, the first Avengers movie, and Logan. And I know he has more. I'm trying to look. He's written so many books, but I'm trying to like. Oh, he did Civil War too, which is another big.
That's probably a good. That's probably a good modern.
Wanted.
Comics are probably more the modern version of that rather than like airport bestsellers. I guess Nicholas Sparks is probably the other one too, right? Where it's just one-off, just like immediately greenlit.
John Green.
That's true.
Again, YA, but like I think a lot of his stuff got adapted. Basically, once what was it like? What was the big one? The Fault in Our Stars.
Fault in Our Stars.
Yeah. That was like, okay, everything that you write is coming out as a movie now because it prints money.
And that is basically Mark Miller to a T, to where like when I was like collecting comics, like reading his stuff, it's like he wrote stuff specifically to be adapted into movies. You could tell like the way that it was all structured and stuff. And
you're like, oh, he kind of looks like Chris Evans too, or like, you know, he's like he's drawing the actors into the comics.
Yeah.
But yeah, speaking of adaptations that didn't print money, yes, The 13th Warrior.
Oh my gosh, yeah. Especially in an era where like 99, you had such big blockbuster movies, and this one just got lost in that year.
Yeah, 99 was a great year for movies.
On the Wikipedia, it says it debuted at number 2 behind The Sixth Sense, which pretty hard to follow up because like The Sixth Sense became like a cultural like touchstone. Like every like comedy that came out after The Sixth Sense, there was one scene where someone at one point in time would say, I see blank people, right?
Yeah.
Like you know you have a hit when that like makes it into other movies. But what I'm curious about, and I'm sure like it's pretty self-evident, what do you think it was about this at the time that made it a box office bomb? Because like it's not
bad.
Sure, but I mean, put yourself in like the mindset of like a 1999 audience goer. I guess what specifically about it, other than like the plot being kind of, I don't know, because like it didn't seem offensively bad to me watching it.
I think it feels like
DJ's
they maybe
me.
not the marketing, or I think they needed another star in this movie. They needed another big star.
That, yeah.
They needed.
That's a good.
They needed,
point,
and they needed. It could have been the female lead, like the woman villager who kind of just like shows up, sleeps with Antonio Banderas, and that's it. Or like making the witch more of a big villain and showing clips of her.
Sure.
I like the reveal at the end of the
point.
cave, but you needed another big star. Could have been the guy whoever played Beowulf, but like it felt very B movie. It felt like a 70s B movie, and then here you have this gorgeous looking huge star Antonio Banderas, and then I think the other problem is like you're not using Banderas to the best of his abilities. It's a fish out of water kind of thing, and you're not really using him. I don't know. He just felt underutilized. I was like, you have this great actor, really charismatic person, and you're kind of putting him as this kind of the lamest guy in the room. And then he gets better, of course, but
sure.
Yeah. But I guess there's never really like a scene where he proves himself. Like he sort of like gains their respect.
Yeah.
He gains their respect like kind of begrudgingly. Like there's a couple scenes where he's like showing him like Arabic, and they're like kind of like learning each other's culture a little bit. But it's like that stuff like falls to the wayside to just I guess just like horseback riding stuff, and just because like I think the thing with me, the thing that I liked about this movie was just like the set pieces, like the costumes.
Oh,
like,
it looks great.
Like
the fog budget.
That kind of,
I mean, they spent I think half their money on fog and mist.
Yeah,
I mean, it was everywhere.
They depleted Scotland of all of their dry ice.
Gorgeous.
Like,
I loved it. I love that.
Because like all the battle scenes seemed pretty good, the weaponry, like the armor, all that kind of stuff. But then if the story doesn't match that level, it's just like, well, then what was the point?
It's too bad. This they needed the Skarsgård family to be like working more during this.
Yeah,
like that's
perfect,
what this movie needs. Is like you need Stellan, or you need like his sons like in this movie playing characters.
Throw Nicolas Cage in there, 1999 Cage.
Yeah,
he would fit right in as one of the guys.
Like, I know they had Omar Sharif, but like I think, and I really liked a lot of the character actors. I like that they felt like they were Nordic Vikings. It really felt of its time.
Yeah.
I just think about marketing this movie, and it's a rated R movie. Again, that's another challenge.
True.
You have a rated R movie where you have just really one star, and it's 3 years after Braveheart, and so it's like, okay, you're trying to do another big historical fiction action movie, and but it's not like it's a Robin Hood movie with Costner. It's not. It's supposed to be historic but mythological. I think it's just a tough marketing movie to get people in theaters.
Yeah.
Especially like as apparently like an adaptation of Beowulf, which I didn't know.
Yeah, that's
like, I'm not familiar.
I don't really see it other than like the character being named Beowulf. It doesn't feel like
I don't
Beowulf
know the story.
to me.
I don't know the story, so
I had to
just
remind myself, which I read it in high school, and I really like Beowulf, but it's like,
same.
Yeah, it's loosely like that, and I think Crichton, when he wrote the book, he wanted to make it better. I don't know.
We all do. We all want our things to be better.
It's like it's an old like ancient like Scandinavian poem like translated down. It's not like a tight hour 45
right, yeah.
minutes. It's not like a Hollywood script. Of course, it's not going to be like this very tight, like energetic, fun adaptation.
It's the same as like Homer's like epics where, you know, they weren't written for the screen. So, you know, you have entire chapters or multi-chapters that are the naming of the ships, where it's literally just like pages of, and then the Mycenaeans with their 200 ships, 1,000 infantry, and like he just goes down the list.
Here's my recasting pitch. I think if you had Dolph Lundgren as Beowulf, something like that, you need just a little bit more star power. I think that could change this movie.
Yeah, I do think that's a very good point. That was like, Antonio Banderas was like, he was a hot guy at the time. You know, he was coming off Zorro. I think this is after Spy Kids,
right?
So
around
it's like,
there,
you know,
not,
it's right before Spy Kids. Yeah, it's like he had Desperado 95, Mask of Zorro was 98, so this is right after.
Okay,
but this movie was started film production in 97, so there was probably.
Oh right, because you did say it got pushed back
because it got delayed.
Yeah.
Honestly, and it's like if you're gonna make it a rated R movie, like you don't have to have a sex scene in the movie, but I'm like, you got Antonio Banderas, like get a little saucy, get a little steamy. You know, it was not like if you're gonna be in a rated R movie, just lean into the rated R-ness. You know,
usually on this podcast, I say that like romantic subplots are usually like my least favorite elements of movies. Like a lot of times, I'm just like, they put that in there because they felt like they needed to, because that's just what you do with movies. But in this case, it definitely could have used like something.
That's what they do in The Last Samurai. He does have a romance. Like the guy he kills, like his wife, they fall in love with. I mean, that probably wasn't necessary, but it does add a dynamic when you have this kind of like assimilating into a new culture type of style.
Yeah. This, like, some of the fight scenes reminded me of like the ending of like Army of Darkness in that in terms of just like big flaming arrow muddy battles and shit like that. But it's like, I was like, oh, what makes like Army of Darkness great? Like there's a lot of things that make it great, but like there's a love interest, you know, give me some sugar baby, like that kind of thing. It's like Antonio Banderas really needed to like channel his inner Bruce Campbell. Like I think, you know, he could have maybe started out as like this meek fish out of water guy, but then like as he gets better, he, you know, kind of doesn't have to be like such a devilish rogue shithead, but you know, he could have, you know, I think his arc could have been a little bit better, where like
more interesting,
you know, he's more of like a swashbuckler at the end, because I did like that where like he gets like one of their swords and he's like, what is this? I don't know how to, he like, you know, he can't swing it, he doesn't know how to, and then he's like, where's the metal worker? And then he goes and just and just like makes like a scimitar basically.
Yeah.
And then effortlessly he's like, oh yeah, like this is great. I'm
good
so
at
good
fighting
at this.
now.
It's like, give me more with that. I don't think he used that sword.
I know, you didn't really see it.
Like I guess it was more just like he was like killing the guys as they came. Like, but it just,
I think the romance is the bromance between the actor's name is Dennis Storhoy.
Who's that?
He calls him little brother.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's what
I did like him. Herger.
That's right.
Is the guy's name. I do like their bromance. I really thought he was gonna die. I just like assumed Herger was gonna die saving Ahmed. But it didn't happen. They had a happy ending. So maybe that's the romance. That bromance is really what they're trying to build.
Yeah. Well, I guess the tragic death at the end was Beowulf, but he wasn't.
I didn't really care that, honestly. I didn't care that much. I think that's one of the things that separates this type of story when I think about Magnificent Seven Samurai is like you have a group of, it's an ensemble cast. You have all these character actors, and you got to really love them because you know most of them are going to die. So you got to feel it. And I think that's why I love the Magnificent Seven, because you get really good intros to all the characters when they do the Ocean's 11 kind of recruitment trip, and you get their personalities, and they all have a little bit of an arc. So when they die, or something happens to them, you really feel it. And I didn't feel it as much with these Viking characters. I was like, oh yeah, it's another Viking. Maybe that's just me like looking. They're just Vikings, but
no,
I
totally. I thought the same thing because where it was like there was so little like character for almost all of them that like they were hard to distinguish. So one would die off, and I'd be like, oh, okay, I guess that was one of them. So now we have 9 more or whatever, and I think there was like 4 or 5 left at the end of it. But it's like, I mean, I have seen Magnificent Seven, but my go-to more is Seven Samurai, and like I know every single character, and every single character is memorable, and like every single death is like impactful, and it like hurts, and it's like it's substantial because you're like, oh my god, they're so limited, and that's one less. Whereas in this, they just kind of happen. They just die, and you're like, okay, I already lost count.
Yeah, that initial fight with the Wendell, like I think 4 of them die, 3 or 4.
I think
no, maybe
so.
it's just 2.
I thought it was.
There was a pretty brutal one where like one of the Wendell like slit his throat and then pulls his head off.
Yeah.
Oh shit! Yeah, cool. But yeah, other than like the one guy had chains on his face, that's how I remembered one of them. And there was like a slight character interaction where it was like when Antonio Banderas like learned their language and he caught them like talking shit about him.
Yeah.
And then he's like,
nice.
My mother was and
was
then
a
he's
hero.
like, you pig son of a whore, and then like he kind of gets up to fight him, and then it's like tense, and then the guy pulls him back, and then it's just like,
No. Hey! Come on. Where did you learn our language? I listened.
more of that stuff. There wasn't really like Ahmad wasn't really, there wasn't a lot of like individual scenes with like individual characters. Like I feel like there could have been more downtime where he gets to know this guy, and then this guy, and then this guy, and like they kind of talk about like, oh yeah, I've got a wife and kids back home, and blah 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 blah, you know, something.
Do you think, because one of the plot points that I was pretty confused at was the son of the king and how he's like hiring other guys. I didn't really.
Same, yeah.
That whole subplot was super confusing. I felt like maybe if you cut that, it would have helped focus more on the characters that we want to know. Because I like the fight when he was fighting the big guy and he just kind of essentially wears him out and then toys with him. Yeah. But I didn't understand the whole context. Like, was the son trying to usurp and take the throne?
Wait, you're talking about the one where the guy, he's getting like the shit kicked out of him, and then he kind of does like the full, like a butterfly sting like a bee thing, and he like cuts the guy's head off at the end.
Yeah,
that was. I thought that was just basically just like two like big dickin' dudes, like they were like insulting each other or something like that. Or no, the one guy like
he was getting paid, wasn't he?
I don't know. I could be remembering it wrong.
Because the woman, and I say this, I'm not saying like there was 2 women in this film, but like two like women good on the good side. Pretty but like much. she goes up and says, "Are you trying to like? Are you gonna try to take the throne?" Or like the son is asking whether you're bad.
Yeah,
or not.
I could be.
I was super confused about what was going on there. Like the son just, you never see him again. Really, I don't know. I think he was supposed to be like this sub bad guy.
Yeah, there's a line where one of them says that he's like, the son is whispering things in his father's ear. So it almost felt like what like the Lord of the Rings character, like Wormtongue, kind of like the guy that's like, yes, father, we should do this. And I thought it was going to go in the direction that like maybe there weren't.
He was like working for the other.
There was something else. But I feel like that subplot kind of just got forgotten about. Like it. Yeah. They talked about that, and then so I pulled up the quote right after he kills the guy. He says, "You could have killed him at will." And he's like, "Yes." And he's like, "Well, why the deception?" And he says, "Deception is the point. Any fool can calculate strength. That one has been doing it since we arrived. Now he has to calculate what he can't see and fear what he doesn't know."
Well, I think it's a cool line.
So it doesn't feel like it goes anywhere after that, because after that it's like they're pretty much
what they needed to do is have the
Wendell.
Have the son, and we don't have to see her, but he needs to be. You see a shot of the son going to the cave to like pay penance to the queen of their enemy and get paid or something. Like you needed something to connect it, and then you help build the tension of like, oh, eventually they're going to go to this cave and kill her. Like she's like, so I feel like that would have helped, because then you're like, oh, this son is he's essentially betraying his father to be set up as a puppet king.
Okay.
Yeah, I thought it was gonna go in some other direction where like there's more, like the king that called them there needs their help, but like the son has some sort of influence and the son has like some ulterior motive. I thought there was gonna be at least some kind of internal conflict between the guys, but
no, we did.
He kills that guy, says that cool line, and then we move on. And
then we're done. We're done with that.
Touch on that idea again.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really do wonder how the book is in comparison to the movie, because I mean that seems to be always the case, is like the book tends to be like obviously better than the movie, because with books you can kind of it's more okay in books to like just straight up say characters' thoughts and feelings and like exposition, where in movies that can feel like extremely clunky if characters just like say exposition to each other. Like audiences recognize that immediately. I'm wondering like if maybe it's more done better in the book as opposed to the movie. I don't know.
I'd hope so. I've
never read anything Crichton. I would he's probably a good writer, right?
Yeah, he's very good. I like a lot of his stuff. I just this one, it seems like it's an interesting adaptation. I felt like this probably is a tougher adaptation than some of his other works. Like this one, it felt like he was trying to make a historical exposition where it had elements of truth in actual history, and which a lot of his works do that with science and things like that. But this one felt like it was going to be a tough adaptation. Outside of like, you could make a really cool like period piece action sequences, and like I think the sets are really beautiful and well done, but to make it all fit logically is challenging.
Yeah, I mean, if it had come out today, probably would have done okay as like a mini series.
Yeah, so it feels like this was an Apple Plus, like Apple series.
A few people would have watched it. A few people would have been like, "This is really cool," and everyone's
really
like,
well done.
It's like, what do they have on there again?
It's really good though. It's really good. That's all I know. It's really good quality.
Yeah.
That's what everyone tells me.
Severance is writing Apple TV a lot of checks, because that's like the only thing that's on there right now.
Yeah.
I was very happy that the dog was not killed in when they went to, at any point. I don't know if you guys know the site Does the Dog Die?
I do.
Yeah.
Yep.
I did check that, and I was very happy that the dog didn't die. Well, I was worried multiple times, because they bring the dog when they sneak into the cave. They bring the dog, I think.
Yeah, I think so.
And the dog's at the final battle.
He's like the main guy's dog.
Yeah, he's Beowulf's dog. It's a really cool dog. It is a
cool looking dog. Yeah, I thought so too.
I was super concerned, because it just felt like this movie could do anything, and that would have been tragic.
Yeah.
Yes.
So listeners, viewers, if you are worried if an animal is going to die in a movie while you're watching it, Does the Dog Die is a website where you can check, and it'll tell you if it passes away or not.
It is a
Some
handy
of the
resource.
Horses in this ate shit. That was
I was a little bit like, I think the horses may be harmed in the making of this movie.
Yeah, because I know that's always like, they put that at the end credits of the movies, like, this filming was monitored by professionals, and no animals were harmed during the making of this film. But like, do you train horses to like fall like that, or do you just get like super elaborate props? Because like, some of those shots, those horses look like they go down hard.
Yeah, they did a great. I mean, it's horses. I think they know how to train how to follow those. Like those horses are trained to do that, but still, I mean, I guess they're all muscle, so it's like it's not like they're me when I like, you know, play pickup soccer with my 9-year-old nephew and try to score and then, you know, pull a hammy.
Yeah.
That's different. They're trained professional horses. So, but they do get. I mean, I feel like Braveheart is another movie of this period where it gets really gritty, which I appreciate because man, that was a big part of warfare back then, and it was not pretty.
Yeah.
I mean, no warfare is, but it I don't think it was very sophisticated. It was just a lot of bodies and spears and sharpened
and
wood.
like horses are like innocent to me. They're just like they're wild animals that are used as like a utility, and it bums me out to see them as casualties of like, you know, the folly of man, you know.
Yeah. It kind of like made me think of how much the horses eat shit in like the Lord of the Rings movies when they're getting like the volleys of arrows, you know, and they're like charging across the field and they just like those are CG ones, you know, but they like
the Rohirrim,
the Rohirrim horses, they just go down hard.
They do go down hard.
All the horse play looked really good,
especially when Antonio Banderas' horse did like a full like Olympic routine
jump thing. Yeah.
I was like, okay.
Very noticeable CGI there. I did chuckle at that, but I was like, what are you gonna do? Everything else was like pretty good.
I mean, besides I think the only other CG shot that I noticed was the boat, like when they were on like in the storm, that was a CG shot, but everything else was pretty practically done in camera, which I really appreciate.
You guys got anything else to say?
Nothing that I can't like cover in like I guess my wrap up. Are we doing normal scale or are we doing dud scale?
I think we can do both, like if you feel like it, but for the record, I will be logging this officially as a normal cut movie.
Okay.
So we're gonna do our 1 to 10 scale, but if you want to throw in if you think it's a spud or dud too, that's fine. You know? Did
we explain the spud or dud? I think
we did that for timeline.
Yeah,
but
and I gave it. I said it was a spud. I think you guys said dud and spud.
Yeah, it's like basically spud is fun bad or like good bad, and then dud is bad bad. That's like the shorthand, I guess.
Yeah. I will say the one thing I was waiting for some sort of science fiction element to happen. I was waiting for like one of the guys from Timeline to show up as like an extra. You know what? That's what this movie needed. I would have lost my shit. It needed Paul Walker jumping in. Like it needed that's the one. Like I said earlier, like it needed that extra element. Like, I'm a Timeline fan here, and if I again re-listen to that episode. But the great thing about Timeline is you have these very fun characters. It doesn't take itself too seriously. And it keeps you going, and there's intrigue, and there's really good performances, and you do have 2 bona fide stars in that movie leading like the heart behind that movie, even though it may not be the best written or executed movies and maybe insanely silly plot line. You have 2 really good actors or well-known actors leads charging forward, and that's what this movie needed. It needed a little extra element. So maybe Paul Walker could have come in. I'm gonna write Timeline fan fiction, where they come back in the scene into the 13th Warrior. That's what I want. Yeah, I just needed it like an hour into the movie. I needed to just like hard cut to like 2 guys in a lab watching everything on like monitors. It's like what?
Yeah.
Paul Walker's like, we gotta get in there, guys. Gotta go save him.
It's like an unofficial sequel to Timeline
that came out.
I think
like 3 years before it.
To save my dad.
Oh yeah, it is 3 years before it. Damn. Yeah, I needed. Yeah,
it's a prequel. Okay. It's a prequel.
Timeline. Yeah. Exactly.
There we go. But yeah, no, I'm good to roll into reviews or wrap ups if you want.
Yeah, I'm good for it.
Okay. I guess I guess I can go first. I guess on the normal scale, I'll go with a 5. Probably could be lower, but I'm feeling a pretty solid 5. I think the story was lacking a lot. You know, what we talked about was just like the lack of character development and character interactions, and like some of those plot lines that didn't really they didn't really follow through on. But I still, I don't know, maybe I'm a simpleton. Maybe I am some kind of idiot. But as silly as it was, I did have some fun with this movie. I thought like some of the action scenes and the fight scenes were kind of fun. I thought the sets and like the props and everything else surrounding it were pretty good. Like I thought it looked pretty good. So I think that element I liked quite a bit, and like the sort of vague Nordic mythology stuff I thought was fine. And you have like an Arab character who is like a devout Muslim who does like stuff that like a devout Muslim would do, and it isn't treated like, I don't know. It's seeing stuff that's like a pre 9/11 artifact is always weird, and I
Yeah, because essentially movies for 10 years afterwards, or 10 or 15 years afterwards, the only time a Muslim faith character is portrayed is like it's connected with a military movie set or like a political thriller intrigue. It's like, that's like when you see someone praying, it's connected to showcase the film like this is in a Muslim culture, and
it's got like that yellow tint, and the music is like
that was like 10 15 years of movies afterwards. So it is cool. It's like, oh yeah, this is when being like that culture was, outside probably the Chinese culture, was like the premier leading like the modern Western world, where they were way more sophisticated, knowledgeable, and educated, and it's cool to see.
So not a great movie. If we're rating on the dud scale, probably a dud. It wasn't really like funny, entertaining in that kind of bad movie way. But on the normal scale, I went with a 5. There was some stuff that I liked. It was kind of a turn your brain off popcorn movie, where if I was a kid in the 90s and I saw it, I probably would have been like, yeah, that's kind of cool. But now I'm just like, yeah, that was an hour 42 of a movie.
It was short. I do have to say, it was under 2 hours, which I appreciate.
That was nice. Yeah,
I appreciate that.
It would be for me a dud, and a normal scale, a 2. I fucking hated this movie. It's one of the most boring movies I've seen in a while.
TJ bearing the lead.
I didn't really have much to talk about with this, because like I just got fucking nothing out of it. You guys were like arguing about the sun thing, and I was like, I heard you mention that one scene where there was like the fight between the two guys, and I was like, oh, I remember that. But then you're like, oh, I think it was this and this, and I was like, I guess so. I'm like, I don't fucking remember any of that. Everything blended together. The characters all blended together, except for like the couple that we mentioned, like obviously Beowulf, and then Hagar, whatever, and
Hagar the Horrible.
Yeah. Honestly, like I feel like my ones are like reserved for special cases, and I'm like, yeah, this one does have some cool like set pieces. I like Antonio Banderas, so I guess that's what saves it from being a 1. But ultimately, this is just a fucking abysmal experience. I thought it is no timeline. The timeline is fucking Jurassic Park compared to this. So
oh man, I'm gonna be like in the middle of both of you. I'm gonna say I'll say 4. I really wanted this to be more memorable. I think I wanted this to be a Spuds. I wanted it to be one of those memorable cheesy 90s action movies. I think it's just missing, either with casting, writing. It needs a little bit more fun in the movie. There's just something missing. It just doesn't hit as much as other kind of this genre in the 90s. And it's almost there. It's just not there.
I think, like you said, it's like timeline doesn't take itself seriously, and I think this movie just takes itself way too seriously, and it is like all the worse for it.
Yeah, I think about Braveheart, which is like a comparable era movie where you have it's different eras, but Braveheart actually has a lot of humor in it. There's a little bit more joy and humor, and
there's more character to the movie itself.
Movie, and I think this is missing a little. It's almost there. There are some good things. I think there's a lot of historical accuracies if you've learned about this era, especially we didn't mention it, but when they shared the water when they're spitting into it in the morning, like that's pretty accurate. If you want to learn more, you can listen to Dan Carlin's Hardcore History. He did a whole series called Thor's Angels that talks about this Celtic culture and how they were viewed by people from the Arab world, from people from Africa that were culturally like traveling, or they were connecting. They're like, who are these crazy creatures that resemble dogs more than humans? I'm
a big Hardcore History fan.
So I think if you understand that context, there are some really good moments where it feels like very grounded in history, but then I think it's trying to do a little too much. If this was just like honestly, if this was a Magnificent Seven Samurai, Last Samurai type of film, and you took away some of the elements, maybe some of the mystical elements, I don't know. It was almost there. It was so close.
Yeah.
And I want it to be there. I have affection for it because it's so close, but it's just not there.
It's hard to hit that mark sometimes.
Not every movie can be timeline, and we know that to be true.
This is just one of those cold, hard facts of the world. Not every movie can be timeline. It's a cinema fact.
Yeah. Not every movie can be timeline.
Actually, you bring up Thor's Angels. Did you know that last year, I think is when it came out, he did a kind of pseudo sequel to that, Twilight of This Year.
Yeah.
That kind of continues that story.
That whole is if you like this, if you like what they're talking about, I think that's another good deep dive where you're getting more of the history, and then because I'm like, oh, that could be a movie. I mean, then we get The Northman a couple years ago with David Eggers, which is
I kept going back to that movie too.
It's really tough to watch this and think about, okay, a movie's going to come along in 20 plus years that makes this look a little silly in comparison,
like baby shit. Yeah, you mentioned like the Skarsgårds, and I'm like, like the Northman. Yeah, like have Alexander come in like full Viking mode. And
yeah, I'm trying to think. That's where I think Dolph Lundgren is probably the closest like for like of that era.
Sure,
I'm trying to think who could you throw in there.
How about Stellan? He'd have been,
Stellan. You could have. I mean, that's the thing. Just throw in Stellan. That would have been it. You needed that extra special kind of touch. And you needed it. And Banderas is too good just to not. You need someone else to like pair with him because he's so good.
Yeah. Have Gerard Depardieu. He was French, but like he was big in the 90s, and they're like European. He's blonde, whatever.
Yeah. Almost there. It was almost there. I want it to be. It's a dud for sure. I mean, I think at all sense of the word, this is a dud.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, we are officially in post chat. Yes.
So now I don't know how to approach this. We're talking Alien. So we all have some experience with it. Luke perked up when he mentioned Prometheus and specifically. I did see Romulus this weekend, and I kind of watched the others like leading up to that because it takes place between the first and second one. So it's like the Metroid Prime of the Alien series. And I think what happened was like I was originally just gonna watch Covenant, because that's like the only one I hadn't seen before. I was like, yeah, I might as well. I think Romulus takes place after that one, but then I found out that it takes place after the original Alien. I was like, oh, I guess I'll watch that too. And then I was like, if I'm watching Covenant, I guess I'll watch Prometheus. And then I'm like, if I'm watching those three and Romulus, I might as well just watch all of them. So I'm working my way through the whole series again now. So
nice. Yeah, I've only seen the first one. I've seen the original Alien, and then Prometheus is.
Oh, you haven't even seen Aliens.
I haven't seen Aliens. I haven't seen Alien Covenant or Alien versus Predator. I don't know if that's.
Oh yes, it is, and it is a lot of fun. That's
the second one.
That's a movie that you're like, this is exactly what I want. It's B movie and it knows what it is.
Yeah. Right? Yeah.
Requiem is really tough. That's a tough one.
The second one, the Requiem has like abysmal ratings. It's like
because they decided not to light the movie. They're like, we're gonna save costs on the special effects and just not light the movie. Like it's essentially in darkness. You have no idea what's going on. It's an interesting franchise.
Have like the heat vision? Is that like the only thing you can see? Is the Predator?
Then you see the heat vision, so you're getting that and then total darkness. So it's a rough watch, but it's an interesting franchise because it and I haven't seen Romulus yet. So TJ, you might want to jump in here where Alien is like it's this horror franchise, but also with like these but then it has these sci-fi ideas, and it kind of goes back and forth from like slasher horror to like highfalutin sci-fi, and it's like every iteration of the franchise you get a little bit something new. I actually rewatched Resurrection and did just a YouTube episode on my YouTube channel, Least Important Things, and Alien Resurrection is a funky movie. It was directed by a French director who did Amélie.
And Jean-Pierre Jeunet.
It is body horror. It is I don't know what it's a little bit of everything, and it's a very special movie. And if you want to get weird, Alien Resurrection is worth a rewatch.
It is definitely like unjustly hated in my eyes. I think that's people who were like just upset that it was like different. But if you go into it knowing that it's like it's not going to be Alien, and it's not going to be Aliens, and it's not even going to be Alien 3. You'll have a good time with it.
It's definitely, it goes into that mid-stage Friday the 13th where you're cheering for Jason, where Jason is why you're going to, like, immediately you're like, the aliens, you're cheering for them. Like, all the human characters are despicable. And you're definitely, like, there's really no redeemable humans, so you're cheering for the monster. But I highly recommend a rewatch. It's fast.
I don't know if this is a good comparison, but it makes you think of like Jason in space when he's like
Jason X.
He's got Jason X. He's got the cheerleaders in the sleeping bag, and he's just
not. You're like, it's not. It wasn't made like by Canadians, so it doesn't have that like Canadian film feel, but it's still one of those just oddities. But I really love oddities in franchises. I'd rather have an oddity that's a little wacky than just kind of like a middle of the road, not trying to do anything, just keeping the continuity up. I love a wacky installment.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Because that's like, so watching Prometheus, I was watching Prometheus, and the thing that I thought of was about basically like Star Wars. And how with Star Wars movies, despite being like huge in scope, taking place across galaxies, and there's planets and different like races of aliens and different cultures, etc., you're kind of limited with like the kind of story you can tell to your audience, because there's like certain things that if you don't have them, a certain subset of your audience will get like really mad, like if it doesn't connect to like the core Star Wars story. So it's like even though it's theoretically like this endlessly limited world that you could create stories for, do people want to, but it's like, okay, but how does it connect to Luke Skywalker? How does it connect to Darth Vader? How does it connect to this? And with Prometheus, that's like, I don't know, like I feel like the Alien franchise, because of like, you know, the iconic design by H.R. Geiger, and like the design of the alien and all that kind of stuff. I don't know. I don't know if it's like as apt a comparison to Star Wars, but it was just like,
because you can't have an alien movie without a xenomorph. Like you have to have it.
So like the end credits of Prometheus, when the xenomorph like comes out of the body of that guy, I'm like, well, of course there's gonna, like, they have to have one in there, because otherwise they
almost
only
make
like,
it out of there without doing it, and then it's right at the end.
The only like the closest thing you get to a xenomorph is like there's a shot where you look at like the artwork on the ceiling inside like the pyramid or the ship or whatever, like the structure that they're in, and you can kind of see like in the center of like some wiggly lines, there's like a xenomorph like in the artwork essentially. Like that's like as close as you get. And I was like, oh, interesting. Like there's like kind of hints. Some of the aliens kind of are like have that oblong-ish like head shape, maybe. But I was like, oh yeah, well there's a xenomorph at the end. Like there's the money shot. They gotta have it in there, or like it's gotta find a way for it to tie into like the other. I don't know. But then it's like if you don't have those things in it, it's just a science fiction movie and it's not an alien movie. So it's kind of like, you know, a double-edged sword.
It's funny because Scott directed that. So like he like he went back to his, but like he went back to a franchise that he started and still had like boundaries because of that. Like it wasn't like it was like this, you know, this new movie
beyond him.
Yeah, Romulus is like, it's an up and coming director. Like a lot of the sequels were like, okay, I'm David Fincher, but I have to make this movie in this alien box. Or like most modern franchise directors are like, I'm Taika Waititi, but I have to fit in this Marvel MCU box.
Sure, yeah.
It's interesting, really, Scott doing that with his own property, where he's like, I'm going to go back and tell like this sweeping origin sci-fi story, but I'm doing it within the context of the sellable xenomorph alien franchise.
Right. And I will say it did feel egregious, but I think it was fine as like almost like a post-credits thing, like an afterthought.
Yeah.
They could have had that happen like in the middle of it, or they could have had like a xenomorph show, because that's what I thought they were gonna do in that scene when Idris Elba is kind of looking at like the giant map, and he's like, oh, like one of the sensors stopped. Oh, it's because it's detecting a life form. And I was like, oh, here's the xenomorph. Here's where it's gonna like come down the halls and it's gonna kill those two guys. Yeah, exactly.
That's what it does when
good.
Dallas gets it in the first one. It does like the jazz hands when it kills Dallas in the first one.
I still think Prometheus though has it was one of the best trailers ever. I remember that trailer.
Really good trailer.
I remember seeing that in theaters, and my friends, we were just like, and I think at that point we didn't really understand that it was an alien movie. But it was such a well conceived, like, because it had like the siren, like, and then like they cut it. It was a really well cut trailer. One of my favorites of all time.
Same thing with Romulus. Did you guys see the Romulus had a fucking kick ass first trailer with the that was really good trailer, really well cut.
It's a fun franchise. I'm excited to see Romulus. So I've heard good things. So I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, in my eyes it's a mixed bag because because it does have I mean, this one is more straight up, like it's not like they're hiding that it's a xenomorph alien movie. It's not like that. You know, this is post the first one, so they're there, which is fine. It's not like you can't not have that. It's just, it's weird in Prometheus because it feels like they're trying to avoid it for most of it. This is more, in embracing the xenomorph and all that. But it's incredibly frustrating because I'll tell you, from like a filmmaking standpoint and just like most of the movie, I loved it. I'm seriously talking like 8 or 9 out of 10. I loved so much of it. But it is seriously brought down like 2 or 3 points by some goofy ass shit they do by like roping in franchise elements. There's one incredibly egregious issue that they do that I won't say. You may have heard of it.
I know what you're talking about. And
I had heard about it beforehand, but it was worse than I expected. And then it's like other sort of references to other elements of the franchise, like certain quotes that they'll like bring up.
And that's the thing where I read an interview with the director where he was a huge fan of the franchise. So it's like, I get it. Like, yeah, if I had an opportunity to make a sequel to a franchise I'd love, I would want to play around with nods and fan service. Like, it would be tough to have restraint.
Yeah, there's so much cool like direction, like the film craft is so cool. So many good like tense moments. But yeah, it's seriously bogged down by those elements for me, which sucks because other than that, like I'm like, if you took those things out, this would be like, second, maybe third best in my opinion for the franchise.
So maybe over time that will like fade, and you'll appreciate it.
It's really bad. It's really bad, and it's like, again, if it wasn't in it so much, if it wasn't such a substantial part of the movie.
Okay.
Yeah. Like if it was like a scene or something, but it's not.
You're like, I can deal with like a scene of like,
it's
they
not,
get it out of the way. There's the scene. Okay, now let's go back to this.
Now here's the question. Will you framing this for me help me when I go to see the movie? And that I might expect it to be something worse than it actually is. So it might actually help.
I don't know. It's really hard to, without saying what it is. It's really hard to.
It's hard to. I'll report back. I'll report back.
Okay.
Yes.
I'll be interested. Yeah, to see.
But yeah, my feelings on Prometheus, because that's the only other one that I've seen.
Right.
The stuff that I really liked about that movie was like the sets and like the ship and the atmosphere and like,
yeah, it does have good atmosphere. Yeah.
But the stuff that really killed it, earlier I was talking about like characters speaking in exposition.
Yeah.
That's kind of what everyone talks like in Prometheus.
Yeah.
The most egregious one, I think, is like the Mohawk dude. I hated that guy.
Feifeld. I remember that because he had an interesting name. Yeah.
There's like one line where like it's early on where they're all like waking up out of the cryo sleep. And like, first of all, I was like, why are these guys on this ship on this mission? They all sound like they're so angry to be there, and it's like, didn't you all agree to this? I didn't.
Everybody complains about their job.
I guess so.
Yeah.
But there's like one line where he just says, he's like, "Listen, honey, I don't care about the science. I'm just here for the money." And I'm just like, oh, this is my character trait right here. It's like, it just seemed like extremely like egregiously, this is my character, and like I'm just telling you outright my motivations, and like there's no subtlety to it whatsoever. So that stuff kind of dragged it down. I think I went with like a 3 on Letterboxd.
Out of 5.
3 out of 5. Yeah. Not 3 out of 10. It's better than that.
It's not bad.
I liked Fassbender as David.
He's great.
Give me that all day long, baby.
Yeah.
I like the idea of like the rogue, and maybe not rogue, but like the robot that knows the true mission, like that trope in science fiction, like your HAL 9000 David
or Ash from Alien.
Yes, the original Alien. Yeah. That's like, oh, you know the true nature of the mission and why we're really going. But I guess there were some things in Prometheus I didn't fully like. Why did David put the thing in his drink that made him freak out?
I think it's literally because he wanted to see what would happen, which I like. I dig that. I dig a character who is just like, I'm just curious. And he doesn't value human life, so it's like,
he's very
if he dies, he dies.
He's very mischievous, like that. I mean, maybe that's not the right word. Maniacal. He's got that kind of like impish kind of like curiosity that I think Covenant plays with a little bit more. That's for sure.
Yeah, again, the best part of Covenant too, Fassbender.
I honestly, even if it would have been a really bad third movie, I would have taken another David story.
I kind of want to see, even though I'm not like a huge fan of either of those, I kind of want to see what the last movie in his like prequel trilogy was going to be.
I know.
And if you like that, they play with that concept with because I mean, there's always a synthetic, and like that's like a mainstay in all the Alien movies. There has to be a synthetic. And the one in the new one, they kind of play with the whole like the loyalty aspect in an interesting way. Where like him and the main character, their relationship was great, and I really, really liked that. And also, that guy's great. The guy who plays the synthetic in the new one is really,
I've heard
really
the cast
good.
Is great too, so that's exciting.
Everybody does everybody does like a decent job, but the synthetic is great. He did so good. He's got to like switch up, kind of like Fassbender in Covenant, how he like plays like the two different kind of sides or whatever. This one kind of does that. It's different, but kind of has to play kind of multiple personalities in a way, I guess.
I always think like Weyland Yutani, like especially with David's character, they're like, let's make the most ruthless corporate underling of all time. Like that's like, I think about if Weyland Yutani is like, what if they're a corporation at that time, like they probably are the most ruthless, maniacal corporation, and they're like, oh, let's make our synthetic just like one of the guys in the boardroom, just like one of us,
and
master manipulator.
That even in
popping in zins and just like ripping through spreadsheets.
That even in Alien, it's like they don't know that Ash is a synthetic until the end. They were lied to about him, and he's so much more like human than David.
Yeah, because they're trying to do that with the audience.
Yeah,
as well. Yeah,
they're trying to supposed to be a fake out for the audience. Yeah, because you get that one little part where you see like his like the white blood dripping down his head at first, and then Sigourney Weaver goes to like talk to Mother, and then that's where it like starts coming out more or whatever.
God, I gotta rewatch the original Alien. I do love that movie.
Yeah, it's so good.
The cast in that is also just like, you got Harry Dean, you got Yaphet Kotto.
Yeah, everybody in that.
Ian
really.
Holm.
Tom Skerritt.
The casting in the
John
franchise
Hurt.
is pretty strong. John Hurt. I mean, every film has pretty solid ensemble casting.
I was thinking that too. Like, it's crazy compared to like most horror franchises. It's like basically the only one that like might not fit this bill is Romulus, even though it has some kind of up and coming, like the Kaylee.
Yeah, it's more.
Spamies.
They definitely did more of an up and coming cast, but still, it's pretty impressive. And so who knows? Like in 10 years, that cast of Romulus could be all pretty solid.
The main girl's been in some stuff. Like she's like the only one that I was like really familiar with, because she's in like Civil War and Devs. But yeah, even like, you know, the Aliens obviously has its own like Paul Reiser, Lance Henriksen, Michael Biehn. Alien 3's got Charles Dance, Charles S. Dutton or whatever his name is. Resurrection with like Ron Perlman.
Yeah, Winona Ryder.
Winona Ryder. Wormtongue.
Yeah.
Isn't that one too?
Yeah, he is.
Brad Dourif.
Brad Dourif plays.
I am a Dourif head.
He gets freaky in Resurrection.
Yeah.
He gets freaky.
He always plays a freaky little guy.
Oh, he gets freak on in Resurrection. It's pretty fun.
Nice.
Yes, it's an interesting franchise. Yeah, even up to Prometheus and Covenant, like A-list.
Yeah.
Like they're stacked casts. It's crazy.
Yeah, because Prometheus had Idris Elba, Charlize Theron. Noomi Rapace.
Yeah. She's pretty big at that time. Yeah, Michael.
Yeah,
Fassbender.
Yeah.
That
surgery scene.
That's the best scene in that movie.
That's crazy.
It'll always stay. It's one of the best of the franchise. It's
really
incredible.
cool.
It's incredible.
The department, the makeup department is what I'm thinking of, to make them look so sweaty.
I know,
she is drenched in sweat in that scene. It's like that's exactly how it would be.
Sweat, yeah.
Oh yeah.
Perfectly.
I thought that too. Yeah. It's good like that. Like I love that in the first one. It's got like it's like Texas Chainsaw in space where it's claustrophobic and foggy and sweaty. And I thought they did a good job with that. Yeah, she's got like the blood and like the iodine from the surgery like all over her body, and she just looks like shit. I was thinking that literally like as I was watching that scene, of like just in between takes, they're like having to like spritz her up with like fake sweat and stuff.
Yeah, again.
Just spend like 8 hours on set completely drenched.
And then a funny thing is, so my wife kind of watched the first two with me, because I just started watching them, and I know she's not like super into the franchise, but she ended up kind of watching them. She watched all of Covenant at least, and in Covenant, I guess some light spoilers. They're more. There's like. They do the classic xenomorph, you know, they find the egg, the face hugger. It's more like closer to the other movies or whatever. But what happens is David lures one of the characters into like the place where the egg is, because he wants to see what's going to happen, right? So he's like, oh, go check that out. Go, see what that is. And And I'm like, why is he listening to him? Why is he trusting this guy? And anyways, the facehugger comes out, and I had asked, for context, I had asked my wife before if she had like seen any of them, and she's like, oh, I've seen the original one. I was like, oh, okay. And so, facehugger jumps the guy, and then it cuts away to another scene, and then it cuts back, and the facehugger's dead, and he's like waking up. My wife was like, she's like, oh, he's okay. And I was like, what? And she's like, oh, he didn't kill him. And I was like, oh, it's been a while since you've seen the first movie, huh? She's like, yeah. And then immediately,
yeah.
She's like, oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Forgot about that.
So, Dud Cup,
yes.
which I feel like is the first time we've pulled from this in a while. Maybe it's just because we're more spread out, but this will be interesting. I've never seen this one. From 1987, directed by Paul, I think that's an I, Weiland, Leonard Part 6.
What is
Leonard Part 6?
It's a Bill Cosby movie. Just so.
Oh boy! Oh, that's what you're. Oh no!
Oh, dude, I'm looking at this movie poster, and I think I've gone down like a Wikipedia rabbit hole on.
This is going to be interesting to watch in context of a modern lens to see.
It's always good when the Wikipedia article says overwhelming negative reviews. Not just negative, but like overwhelming.
Yeah. Yeah, I have no idea what it is even about. I don't know why it is called Leonard Part 6. I just know that it has like incredibly poor reviews no matter where you look.
Hell yeah. Awesome. This will be fun to find on streaming.
Yeah, where is this? You're going to have to go to like a used DVD store.
You can rent it on, that's so annoying. You can rent it on Amazon Prime, which that was like for 13th Warrior, I could only find it for rent. It's so fucking annoying. Like the only movies you have to fucking pay for are the shit ones that nobody wants to watch. Like those are the ones that should be free.
Here's my defense of that. When I did that, I was also frustrated. And then I said, you know what? The guys who played like the random, Viking character, he's going to get 5 cents residuals because I just bought this, or he's gonna get 1 cent residual. You know what? I feel good. I'm donating it to him. So that's how
they're gonna like
frame my
next
contact.
episode.
Somebody who worked on that film is gonna get a cent.
They're gonna be like,
you rented it.
Damn, in August we got like $3.
Wow.
Damn, shit.
13th Warrior heads out there.
Next money we'll be putting money in Bill Cosby's pocket, so that'll make us feel better.
Well, I got some good news for you. I did Google Leonard Part 6 streaming. It took me to Tubi. Coming September 1st. Leonard Part 6
Holy
to Tubi.
Shit.
Tubi
Fuck
coming
you,
through.
Bill Cosby. That's awesome.
So exactly a week from now, Leonard Part 6 makes its triumphant debut on Tubi.
That's fucking sick.
If you didn't know,
dude.
now you know.
Dude, some of the you may also likes on this Tubi page are interesting.
Yeah, I'm sure that's a deep rabbit hole.
We got The Godson with looks like Dom DeLuise and Rodney Dangerfield.
Yep,
We got Carrot Top, chairman of the board.
Oh, hell yeah, dude.
We got looks like Delirious with John Candy.
Okay,
Shrimp
I think I've
on
heard
the
of that
Barbie with Cheech Marin. UHF. I feel like UHF doesn't belong in that list. I feel like the Weird Al movie is.
I mean, I like Weird Al, but yeah, I like UHF. Yeah, it's silly. That's like a cult classic, really.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, I guess maybe this could be too. So maybe that's why they're kind of like 80s cult classic movies.
Yeah, because there's also Yellowbeard, which is like a Cheech Marin, like Blackbeard pirate parody movie.
Oh,
which I'm pretty sure my grandma had the VHS tape of that.
Nice.
Peter Boyle, Graham Chapman, Cheech and Chong, John Cleese. Wow.
What?
Kind of stacked. Eric Idle. All the Pythons are in this movie.
What the fuck? That sounds awesome.
Yellowbeard, 1983. Okay, anyway, yes.
Python X Cheech and Chong? That sounds fucking sick.
But yes, we digress. Leonard Part 6.
Leonard Part 6. Hell yeah. Watch it before next week's episode if you don't want to be spoiled for it. Or before the next episode. These episodes come out on Wednesdays at 7 p.m. EST on YouTube in video form, as well as Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and more in audio form. We also have social pages on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. And with all that said, thanks again to our guest Luke for coming on again. It was a good discussion.
Thank you, my friends.
Not a good movie, but if you feel, you can do some plugs. And you did name drop your podcasts earlier, but if you want to,
least important things capacity. Wherever you get podcasts. We also have a YouTube page where we do some exclusive stuff there, some video stuff. And then you can follow me on socials at Luke H. Ferris and on TikTok at Least Important Things. A lot of fun stuff, a lot of conversations like we had today. Also, we talk about a lot of things, least important things that give us purpose in life. So anything from how to choose your sports team to best songs to walk to, a little bit of essays, fun movie discussions, just enjoyable content. So check us out wherever you listen, wherever you get stuff on YouTube.
Link will be in the description.
It's a random assortment of things. So every once in a while there'll be like a topic. I'm like, and then so I've listened to some like sporadic episodes.
It's a sandbox. You never know what's going to come out of my mind. Which if you've listened this far, you know there's a lot of deep pulls that It's a weird mind, but it's perfect for movies like the 13th Warrior to discuss.
Yes.
Yeah, we are also not strangers to mass digressions off of the main topic either, as somewhat evidenced today. Although I wouldn't say this was our worst, surprisingly. I feel like we've gone on some way, way wilder tangents and whatnot. All right, rock and roll. With all that said, again, I don't know. I'm kind of lost, and I can't think of a.
You couldn't pull a quote from this movie?
I listened. There you go. Okay. That's a line.
Draw what I speak.
Yeah, something. I don't know. The joke is that I listened, but I didn't because I didn't fucking glean anything from this movie at all. So, and with me as always.
Ow! That's a woman's sound. Do that again, and you'll make it.
Okay, that's good.
And I am Nick, and with us today
is Luke. Thank you. You guys are the best.
Yes. Yay. Awesome. Thanks for coming on.
Bye-bye.